Welcome back to the Go to Go podcast, man. Episode 71, week 17 of the NFL season right upon us. 2 weeks remain in the regular season. Breaking down these last 2 weeks. This episode, we got in or out some playoff contention teams in the AFC. I'll give it to you, and you tell me in or out. And then, of course, Week 17 pick'ems as well. Still knotted up. Both of us 11-5 last week. I trail by 4 games. You're sitting at 149 and 89. Me, 145 and 93. So coming down to the last 2 weeks of the home stretch. But before the pick'ems, man, so in or out, AFC edition. I got some teams in the hunt or in the playoffs currently. And you're going to tell me if you think they get to the playoffs or not to finish off the season. First team up, the Houston Texans, in or out?
The Houston Texans, I'm going to say out. Now, before, I was going through this and, looking at all the things, this is basically just, a race for the AFC South. So, those are the main teams that I think will really be competing for that last spot because, the division is still up for grabs right now. But I'm going to say the Texans are out. They play the Titans and the Colts the last 2 games of the season. I just think, they're not a year away, but I just think they're a little too early right now. A really promising young team. We saw what CJ Stroud was able to do this season. I mean, this entire roster just overachieved in every category. Will Anderson had a really solid rookie year. Tank Dell, he put up some good numbers, had a couple good games. Nico Collins really stepped up, showed that he can be, a top receiving option in this NFL. But overall, right now, I just think, unfortunately, injuries, Stroud was banged up, Anderson, Tank Dell, the 3 players I just named, having really good seasons for him. Everyone right now is kind of all banged up. So I just think the way it's shaping out, it's going to be tough for the Texans. So I got them just out.
All right, man. The next 2 teams up, obviously, I'm going to have in the AFC South. So you tell me, the division leader, Jacksonville Jaguars, currently in or out?
Yeah, this last spot, or not this last spot, but this division really, I think, comes down to the Jags and Colts. And, ever since we started, I've been higher on the Jags. The Jags have kind of been like my AFC team. So I think I got to stick with them here, man. I'm going to say the Jags are in now. This team is also pretty banged up. Trevor Lawrence had the ankle now. Apparently has a shoulder injury in his throwing arm, so that's never a good sign. Offensive line hasn't been playing well as late. Defense has just been, giving up points and yards to everyone they play. But their last 2 games are against the Panthers and the Titans, 2 teams who are already, out of playoff contention, not really playing for anything. And the Jags want to, take this division, go into the playoffs with some kind of momentum. These are 2 must-win, 2 should-win games. Now, it's not looking good, like I mentioned. They're not playing their best football, but I think the Jags hold on. They hold on to the division, and they're in the playoffs.
Okay, that's going to bring up the Colts, who sit at 8-7 and hold that 7th seed in the AFC, so the last wild card spot. Do you have the Colts in or out?
This is a tough one. I don't think the Colts make it, man. I'm going to say out. Now, they were the first team out for me, especially in this division. It's tough, but, that Falcons loss last week was just really, really bad. Also, a team dealing with injuries. Pittman, he's banged up. A couple guys on the defensive side not really there. So it's tough. I think Shane Steichen, what he's done with this Colts team, especially losing Anthony Richardson and, having Gardner Minshew step in and basically be your quarterback this season, was basically a big, big win for them. Shows that, this team has some promise going into the future next season. They should have, some positive outlooks, should have some expectations into being a playoff contender, a playoff team next season. Fully healthy, you get your guy back at QB. But right now, I think they're just on the cusp.
All right, man.
But they could easily make it, but I think they're out.
Okay, so that's going to open up a spot currently in the playoff race. Next up, the Steelers at the 9 seed at 8-7, in or out?
Steelers are an interesting team. This would be a team I would want to say should be in, but I think the Steelers team is out, man. Um, the main reason is just because their schedule. They play the Seahawks and then the Ravens. Like those two games are going to be super super tough. Those are two teams already in the playoffs. Two teams, looking to cement their playoff seeding, whereas the Steelers are more on the outside looking in. The Ravens, especially, we'll talk about the Ravens and the Seahawks on the NFC side, especially at home. You know, are a team that can put a couple good drives together. They can score the ball, and defense has been up and down, but Geno should be back healthy. That offense can put up some points. So against the Steelers team, I know Mason Rudolph looked decent, but I just don't think Steelers have enough to get it done.
That last wild card spot still open. So it's the next team up, the 10th seed, Cincinnati Bengals, in or out?
Bengals are also a pretty interesting team in that NFC North. I just don't know, with Jake Browning, and we saw, what the Steelers team I just said is out just did to them. Not really sure what they can do offensively. They bring back Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. He had a really solid game, so they can put some points up offensively. But overall, I think this Cincinnati team is out, and I don't think they get in.
Okay. Next team up, the 11th seed currently, the Denver Broncos, 7-8, in or out?
I don't like the Broncos either, man, especially after what we just saw. Losing to the Patriots at home, Sean Payton and Russ just not seeming like they're on the same page. I mean, that loss to the Patriots is just something, like, if you're a playoff team, you just can't have at this point. So Broncos had a pretty up and down season, but I don't think they get in. I think they're just out.
So I didn't put this team on my list because I didn't think we'd get this far, but the only other team in playoff contention, Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, that's the team I got
7-8.
Sneaking in, man. Yeah, I don't like this Raiders team, but everything they've been able to do, ever since they got McDaniels out of there, this rookie head coach, Aiden O'Connell not completing a pass outside of the first quarter, defense, scoring 2 touchdowns against the Chiefs, who, they continue to lose. Not saying it's a lock. They win the division just yet, although they should be favored. I think the Raiders are hanging around just enough, and I believe if they win out, they have like a 80% chance or something like that of making the playoffs. This week I believe they play the Colts, and I got them beating the Colts, and I forgot who they played last week.
They played the Chiefs, and then they got the Broncos.
Yeah, and I just told you the Broncos out, so those are 2 very winnable games for the Raiders right now. And I know their offense hasn't been scoring points, but then we see them play against the Chargers, and they put up 63 points. So this is a weird team, but I just think out of like all the teams, everything going on right now, I don't know. I like the Raiders. Sneak in. They went out to, like I mentioned, 2 very winnable games with the Broncos and the Colts. So I think the Raiders sneak in. They get that last spot. And we see 2 AFC West teams in the playoffs. The Steelers had, an easier schedule and weren't playing 2 really good teams or 2, playoff caliber teams right now. I think they would be my pick, but I just like the way the Raiders are playing right now. Got them fired up. They're winning games, and, teams this time of year, you just got to find ways to win, man. That's what the Raiders are doing. And listen, in Vegas, you never know, man. And, like, if they make it to the Super Bowl, it's going to be a home game.
Dude, this is a little far. They're going to have to win on the road.
Yeah. You heard it here first.
Maybe
Raiders to the
Eagles.
Super Bowl. Hosting Super Bowl.
Eagles, but AFC. But anyways.
But no, yeah, I like the Raiders team, man. They're super competitive. They're playing super tough football right now. They're just finding ways to win, so I think Raiders sneak into that last spot. Now, will it happen? Probably not, but that's my pick. Going Raiders.
Raiders' current playoff probability, according to NFL.com, 11%. Not the worst. The Broncos have 8%. And then, obviously, the Texans right now sit at 37, first team out. of the playoffs. The Colts that hold that 7th seed that are out, 53. So you think the Bills are in, 87% chance.
Yeah, Bills are pretty much.
The top stands. Only thing is that the Jags, if they lose that division, they're out. But
Yeah, I mean, and for my pick, this game coming up this week, Colts Raiders. That's like,
yeah,
you know,
it's a game of the week for the AFC playoff picture.
Game of the week for
Who thought
our
we'd be
playoff
here
picks.
sitting here saying that at this point
Facts.
in the season, man? It's been up and down over there in Vegas, no doubt. Shout out Jack Jones, man. Another pick 6 this week. Trolling some Kansas City fans. Someone said we got to bring hatred back into the sport of rivalries, and I agree, man. Who likes their division rivals? And he's bringing it back to life, passing it on to the next generation of kids. So shout out to him. 2 pick sixes. He's been best player on the defense at this point in the past few weeks, but Raiders, man, we'll see if Aiden O'Connell gets it done. Comparable on the other side. I think the Texans, if they get Stroud back this week, which they should, I could see them getting in, but I don't see the Colts, like you mentioned. I really don't like the Steelers. The Bengals, I could see having a better shot, but I'm not mad at your list. All right, Week 17 pick'ems. We matched up once again last week. Got to make something shake. I think we got a couple different picks. First game up, Thursday Night Football. Jets travel to Cleveland to play the Browns, and I really don't want the Browns playing Thursday Night Football because Nick Chubb tore his ACL last time. We're bringing the white unis out, the white helmets. I think the best unis they have. Excited to see that, but I mean, give me the Browns. Trevor Siemian, starting quarterback. Zach Wilson didn't pass concussion protocol today, so he can't participate in Thursday's game. The Jets, they were able to squeak out a win by the grace of, Greg the Leg at the end of the game. The Browns, injuries continue to stack. Just as I say, maybe they could get a little healthier. Their whole special teams unit, Dustin Hopkins, Bajorquez, the punter. They just signed a kicker and a punter, as well as P.J. Walker to the active roster because DTR is not going to be playing Thursday. He got hurt when he came in for Flacco in the fourth quarter. Amari Cooper, we know the day he had. Joe Flacco in Cleveland. Never thought as a Browns fan I'd sit here and say Joe Flacco is trying to lead us to a playoff berth and 99% chance to win a division if the Dolphins take care of business this week. It's an opportunity for the Browns, but it's a tough stretch. Let's see if they can get, up in the rankings a little bit. They still got a chance at the 1 seed. It's hard. It's really between the Ravens and the Dolphins in reality, with the best shot, and the Ravens have it after last night's statement win against the 49ers. Give me the Browns at home. DB's once again locked down. Myles Garrett gets held on every play, still makes an impact. And if Joe Flacco keeps cooking like he did last week, I know the Texans' defense extremely below average. But, when a Cooper torches for a franchise record, you love to see it. Give me the Browns at home in primetime.
Yeah, you pretty much, went over everything there kind of is to say about this game. So I'm going to just, keep it short and sweet. I like the Browns at home as well. Browns on one hand, competing for that playoff spot, have actually a legitimate shot to get the 1 seed in the AFC. Whereas the Jets are, announcing Robert Saleh and, other coaches and personnel people extensions for next year. So clearly 2 teams in different categories right now. I like the Joe Flacco revenge game. Give me the Browns.
Yeah, Flacco's supposed to sign with the Jets after A-Rod went down was a possibility. Didn't do it. He has as many touchdowns as the Jets do since A-Rod went down, passing-wise. Next game up, Saturday night primetime. Just one Saturday game this week. Lions travel to Dallas to play the Cowboys in the team And the matchup between the two dome, I don't even know how to categorize them, but the two dome teams that love showing out in the dome and playing in the dome. I know it's Jerry's world. The Cowboys coming off a tough loss against the Dolphins, really. I thought the Cowboys had it at the end. I didn't think the Dolphins had it in them to go down the field. That game was way closer than it should have been. Dolphins couldn't capitalize when it came to red zone offense. I think that's one area that either Mike McDaniel's extremely well or extremely bad in, trying to dial up plays. But when you're throwing fades to Cedric Wilson, once again, Jeff Wilson Jr., anything like that, I just don't think it's the right play call. I think he knows it sometimes, but he keeps dialing it up. I like the Lions on the road in this matchup. The Cowboys, they kind of slip a little bit. I know it's at home. I think it's going to be a tight game. I could honestly see the Cowboys winning it, but Lions just clinched that division. I think they want to get one more on the road here, carry that momentum. Let's see if the Jahmyr Gibbs show continues. Had a great game last week. Amon-Ra's been solid the past few weeks. And Jared Goff finally, not turning the ball over. Jared Goff we saw early on in the year. If he's that same version of himself, give me the Lions.
Yeah, I like the Cowboys here. The Lions are pretty much locked into that 3 seed right now, barring anything crazy on the Eagles' part. But the Cowboys actually, still have something to play for. Like, the division can still be up for grabs. So I think Dallas wins, and they've just been a different team at home. Like, we just saw the Cowboys play 2 tough road games against the Bills and the Dolphins in back-to-back weeks. Cowboys, they didn't really look great in either one, especially that Bills game where they just got, bullied and manhandled. And then against the Dolphins, the defense just, lets up the game-winning drive. So not the 2 best, games to leave people with the watch and, to have a perspective of the Cowboys. But, I mean, let's not forget what Dallas was at home. Like, just before that Buffalo loss, I mean, they blew out Philly at home. They killed the Giants at home, murdered the Rams at home. Like, when they play teams at home, Dak Prescott and these Dallas Cowboys they're a different team. The defense plays so much better. They score points on offense and defense. They just seem to be on fire. So, I mean, the Cowboys, their issues definitely don't have anything to do with playing against teams at home, and especially on the Lions' part, man. I mean, that game against the Vikings, Nick Mullins literally did everything he could to just give that game away. And, that 4th down throw to Justin Jefferson is like, maybe Vikings are still found a way to hang around. But Lions have also been one of those teams where they've been super explosive on offense, but defensively, they've had some troubles, kind of closing out games and putting other teams away. So I think if they get this Cowboys team at home, Dallas gets up maybe a couple scores, I think they can run away with this game. So I'm going to pick Dallas at home.
Next game up, Tennessee Titans, AFC South versus the Houston Texans, and CJ Stroud likely coming back this week. The Titans eliminated from playoff contention. Derrick Henry last season in Tennessee is a big question being brought up around the league. He said he wanted to stick around, maybe make the playoffs one last time. Falls short. Ryan Tannehill was at quarterback last week. Not much of a difference. Managed better than Will Levis in some situations, but this Titans team, it's got a lot of holes on the roster. I mean, between the offensive line being a huge problem, do they have their quarterback in Will Levis? They still don't know. And then probably most likely moving on from Derrick Henry at this point. You don't want an aging running back when your uncertainty of your future in the defense. Vrabel coach, but still they got some missing pieces on that defensive side of the ball. Give me the Texans at home. You mentioned Stroud, the amazing season he has. I think he comes right back to it. Just a concussion. Clears, he'll be just fine.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. As long as CJ Stroud's back and it looks like he's on track to play this game, I think, the Texans are just a better team, and CJ Stroud is that big of a difference maker, and I think just him is good enough to get this win over the Titans, like you mentioned, who are, trying to figure out some other things for this team and kind of looking ahead to the postseason or the off season, excuse me, already. So yeah, I'll take the Texans.
Next game up, Atlanta Falcons in Chicago against the Bears, and somehow we're sitting here still talking about the Falcons because they like to get dubs when they shouldn't. Give me the Bears at home, man.
Yeah, oddly enough, I think both of these teams still like technically have a chance to make the playoffs. So should be pretty interesting, but I'm with you, man. The Bears at home feel like a lot better than they do on the road. Kind of just, put a beating on the Cardinals at home. So I don't think the Falcons are much better than the Cardinals at home. Justin Fields is running around, slinging it. Give me the Bears.
Yeah, the NFC South, that's how they're still not eliminated. The next game up, man, Miami Dolphins in Baltimore against the Ravens. Lamar playing against, the Dolphins. He always loves playing in Miami and just showing out in front of family and friends. This time around, it's a little different. I think it was in Baltimore last year when the Dolphins had the three-score comeback against the Ravens in the second half. Tua, Tyreek linked up for a few TDs, if I remember correctly. And I got the Dolphins on the road here, man. A lot riding on this game for the Dolphins, a lot riding on this game for the Ravens. The Ravens with the statement win last night. That defense finally held up for 4 quarters. They always were great this season, but the second half meltdowns are what led to some of their losses. Lamar Jackson took care of the football in the second half as well. Always gives the team a boost. I think this is going to be a really good matchup. I mean, the Ravens top to bottom look like the best team in the NFL right now, especially after, they embarrassed Brock Purdy in the MVP conversations last night. Dolphins, if that defense could keep playing at a high level in big situations, Bradley Chubb stepped up big time this year off the edge. I like the Dolphins, man. It's going to be a close game. I think it's really going to come down to, whoever has the ball last. And if the Dolphins got enough juice to back-to-back game-winning drives, we'll see.
Yeah. This was a tough game for me to pick. Like you mentioned, the Dolphins last year had that big comeback win in the fourth quarter at Baltimore. And then I think even a couple years back in Miami on that Thursday night game, the Dolphins kind of upsetted the Ravens at home. So I think the Dolphins are 2-0 in the last 2 matchups they've played. So they kind of got that over the Ravens. But after what we saw last night, the way Lamar Jackson and that offense was able to just come out and move the ball against the 49ers, who have one of the best defenses. And I think Baltimore receivers even left a little bit, out there on the field, had a couple drops. Regardless, Lamar, like you mentioned, I think you talked about last show, his numbers aren't looking like, the greatest in the world. But when you watch Lamar Jackson play and you watch him in this offense, he's playing some of the best football, if not the best football in his career. And this Ravens defense is just fast, man. They're flying around. They got playmakers. Kyle Hamilton, although he was banged up, I saw his injuries shouldn't be too serious. Marlon Humphrey making plays. Patrick Queen. They just got a bunch of guys flying around to the ball. Also believe they lead the league in sacks, so they're going to get some pressure on you. The Ravens are, like you mentioned, just one of the most complete teams. If this game was anywhere but Miami, like if the Dolphins were anywhere else other than Miami, I probably would have picked the Dolphins. But I just think the way the Ravens are playing, Lamar homecoming after being the league leader in the MVP.
This is in Baltimore.
It's not in Miami?
Nah, it's in Baltimore.
Oh, I think it's in Miami.
If I did, I messed that. No, it's in Baltimore.
Oh, well, then it's in Baltimore. Excuse me. Well, that makes it even more of a Ravens pick for me then. So, yeah, at home, I think Lamar and the Ravens handle business. They've been super solid at home this year.
They did win the last 2 matchups, and all I think about Lamar in Miami is that opening week 2019 where he hung 50 on Miami's head, but hopefully it's a little bit different. Next game up, NFC South, man. Battle for that number 1 seed in the division title. Saints go to Tampa, Raymond James, and play the Bucks. And Bucks, I mean Baker, he's been in the kitchen baking. I mean the Bucks right now, they look like they could actually win this division. Frisky team could possibly win a playoff game, especially, if you win that division, you get the home game. They look good right now. Mike Evans looking real solid, and the Saints, on the other hand, like the total opposite direction. It's tough to watch the Saints. They really don't pass the eye test. So just give me the Tampa Bay Bucks because they passed the eye test.
Yeah, offensively, the Bucks have been rolling. Couple questions defensively, but I think they still got enough playmakers on that side of the ball to hold up a bit. Yeah, I think they clinched the division in this game. Give me the Bucks.
Next game up, AFC East matchup in Buffalo. Patriots travel to play the Bills. And I know the Pats won last week against the Broncos in one of the worst games ever. Broncos just handed them 2 touchdowns. And, I mean, the most memorable thing from this game was a Highland kick off the goalpost that made a loud sound. So, give me the Bills. They've been rolling. They've been hot at home. I mean, right now it just looks like they're back to being, previous year's Buffalo Bills. Getting the job done. Josh Allen wants to punch that ticket to the playoffs once again. Give me the Bills.
I like the Bills here as well. All I'm going to say is don't be surprised if it's a lot closer than we think. Patriots already beat Buffalo earlier this year. Bills coming off of a weird game against the Chargers, and the Patriots are winning games right now. So this game is all a little weird, but I think the Buffaloes, they should handle business.
Yeah, Patriots are literally falling back to take a long snapper in the draft. That way they don't look so bad. And top 3 pick or 5. I think they're at 5 right now or something like that.
I think it is 5.
Next game up, Arizona Cardinals in Philadelphia against the Eagles. At this point, the Cardinals, like many other teams around the league, trying to set up for next season. Is it K1? Is it going to be somebody else in that building? I really think that's what it comes down to. And I don't think there's going to be any changes with the coaching staff between now and next year. This year kind of being a lost year without a QB. Regardless of the fact, give me the Eagles. I know they've had their struggles, and even that game against the Giants almost let Tyrod come back at the end. They look solid, decent for a majority of the game, but you've talked about that back end of that defense. It could cause some problems, Kyler Murray hooking up on a deep ball or two, but I still think the Eagles get bailed out by, their talent. I think they're able to get this win at home, try to punch that NFC East ticket.
Yeah, the Eagles should win this game. I'm also going to pick the Eagles here, and you pretty much just, said everything I've been saying all year, and I'm going to continue to say this game. Against the Cardinals, our defense is not going to be able to stop anything the Cardinals can do. Kyler Murray is going to have a great game. And it's just going to come down to, just the talent on our offense, overcoming play calling, overcoming, miscommunications, and the, offense just not looking fully there yet. Devontae Smith coming out saying, yeah, we have 11 wins, but, he's not happy. A.J. Brown declining to talk to, the media after the game, saying there's not really much for him to talk about. It's just not looking good offensively right now for the Eagles, and that's just because defensively there's literally nothing to say. It's just bad. Whereas on the offense, you see the talent. Offensive line has been playing pretty solid this year. Jalen Hurts still seems a little banged up, but I think he had a solid game himself outside of the interception, pick 6, which wasn't his fault. Dallas Goedert just happened to slip on the route. It was nice to see Swift get going a little bit later in the game too, leaning on him. Taking some of that pressure off Jalen Hurts, I think, will definitely help. But yeah, it's gonna have to come down to a couple big plays. Swift breaking a big run early in that game. Hurts hit Devontae Smith on that big crosser. That was a nice play. So a couple nice plays here and there on the offense, and hopefully, just like you mentioned, being talented or more talented than the other team to kind of just score more points. Whereas so far this season, hasn't really been the case, but we should be better than the Cardinals offensively, so I'm going to pick the Eagles. Defensively, the Cardinals are going to score probably their season high.
Yeah, Hollywood Brown's about to look like, the first round pick he was supposed to be. Um, Panthers Jags next game up, man. You mentioned you've been high on the Jags. I really don't see it. I think they've dropped how many in a
I
row?
think that was 4 in a row.
4 in a row. We'll make it 5, man. The 2-win Panthers coming off a win last week. Jeez, I don't even know what to say about them. And Bryce Young, he led I believe, I'm not sure how many yards it was, but a game-winning drive to kick the game-winning field goal. And at one point in this season, I think he's got it in him to beat these Jags. I really am just picking against the Jags because they're a huge letdown, man. Top to bottom, you have the coaching staff, you have the players around you. Calvin Ridley comes out week 1, looks amazing, and kind of falls off a cliff, has a couple games here and there. Evan Ingram up and down, kind of looking like New York Evan Ingram, not the revived Jags Evan Ingram. Christian Kirk dealing with injuries. That's T-Law's favorite target right now, and if it's not ETN punching in a couple touchdowns, it looks bad on the Jaguar side. I know T-Law's banged up, hasn't played well since that injury, sat out last week because of I believe it was a stinger in the shoulder or whatever. The Panthers, they're not playing for any rights for a draft pick. They're trying to go out there and spoil. And Brian Burns, I mean, he had a game last week, and I figured he might go out and have one against the Jags. So give me the Panthers. I do like Josh Allen off the edge for the Jags. He's been balling out kind of under the radar this season, in terms of edge rushers, but he's having quite the season, up there, league leader in sacks. Just give me the Panthers on the road out of spite.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Jags here. Like I mentioned earlier, I said, I got them winning this division. So for that to happen, they got to beat the Panthers. And I totally agree. They've been super disappointing. I think they have a better win-loss record in London this year than they do in America. So that's never good when, you only play, like 2 or 3 games in London.
I think they played 2.
Yeah,
so.
and the rest are all in, I think they're under 500 in America. Yeah, not a good look. Regardless, if there's ever a team to beat, it should be the Panthers right now. Although Bryce Young in that, second half offense did look pretty convincing, but it was against that Packers defense who might not be much better than the Jags defense. So I do think this is a competitive game, pending if Trevor Lawrence suits up and plays. I think he's still questionable at this point, but I think the Jags can get a win here against the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago against the Falcons. He had that game-winning drive. But, yeah, Packers defense, very questionable. Jags defense, also very questionable. Next one up, man, your Vegas Raiders, who you got punching a ticket to the playoffs against the Colts, man, in that AFC, battle for the wild card. I got the Colts. Disappointing game last week. It was a total embarrassing loss. I mean, to say the least. You kind of have a chance to solidify yourself in playoff contention against these Atlanta Falcons, who might be, one of the shakiest teams and one of the, worst teams when it comes to games because they just find ways, similarly to the Chargers, to lose them. I think this is really a coin flip, so just give me the home team and the Colts.
Yeah, I pretty much went over this when I was talking about the wild card spot in the playoff contenders. So I'm gonna just keep it simple here. I like the Raiders. I think on a little win streak, riding high. Give me the Raiders.
Next game up, Los Angeles Rams in New York or Jersey to play the Giants at MetLife. Give me the Rams. I like, I said their offense, once they got Stafford and all those guys healthy, they look dangerous. And they could put together a run. They still got Aaron Donald on the defensive side of the ball. Defense not quite as good as it was some years ago with Ramsey when they won the Super Bowl and the offense and whatnot. But Kyron Williams, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, those guys are dangerous on the offensive side of the ball. And Stafford, if he could stay healthy, limit those turnovers, he might be looking to spoil a Detroit Lions playoff win. And, that matchup, the script writers, I know they want it to happen, so give me the Rams on the road. This offense is dangerous. Just that defense needs to tighten the ship a little bit.
Yeah, I like the Rams here, man. I think the Rams and the Bucks are kind of two similar teams right now, where they're just two teams heating up, playing their best football right now. This Rams offense is really clicking. Sean McVay has got these guys playing great football, and Giants on the other hand, I mean, not really much to say there. Tommy DeVito gets benched. Tyrod comes in, makes a couple big plays here and there, but not, just not enough to get over that hump for the Eagles. Whereas the Rams, they're looking like one of the best passing offenses in the league. Cup and Puka both rolling right now. Stafford, like you mentioned, he's playing some really, really good football right now. So, yeah, give me the Rams.
And I heard something, they were talking about McVay contemplated retirement after the Super Bowl. And it's just crazy because he came into the league one of the youngest coaches, obviously one of the best coaches, offensive-minded.
One of that TV deal.
Yeah, I mean, he said just the process of knowing your whole team's, going away. They were kind of on that, one and done deals that year. The coaching staff, they go ahead and get new gigs. You lost, Odell, who was a key piece for most of that game in the Super Bowl. And then, Aaron Donald contemplating retirement, move on from Ramsey, everything that, came after it. So McVay, he's come a long way since that one and done Super Bowl. And what the Rams went through last year was, Stafford just not being healthy at all. So it's good to see them back in the contention, one of the great coaches. And we'll see. I don't think there's much with the Giants this year. So next game up, man, the 49ers off that ugly L. They travel to Washington to play the Commanders. And there really should be no problem. I think Sam Howell got benched once again this week.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy, he basically got benched. I mean, I know he's still your quarterback, but Sam Darnold was out there. He was slinging it. He did have a pick, but
Yeah,
I mean, there was picks the whole game, so it really didn't matter. He was slinging it through a touchdown. I mean, he looked decent. He was throwing to Brandon Ayuk, which I liked fantasy-wise in my semifinals. So shout out to Brock with the 4 picks. Give me that dub. Just give me the Niners. This should be a game they should be able to handle, even if they don't have their best stuff. This is the Commanders. Defense might create a couple turnovers, and it could get ugly fast, but the Niners take care of business on the road.
Yeah, not much else to add on to this game. Only thing I will say, as an Eagles fan, and I'm sure, Cowboys fans and maybe Lions fans can all agree, it was nice to see, the 49ers look, humane, kind of came back down to earth. Like, it's possible to beat this team, where before they were just, running through teams, blowing everybody out. So it gives me a little bit of hope. Now, I don't think the Eagles will be able to beat the 49ers, but, the Ravens put this blueprint out there. But, yeah, come on, it's the Commanders, bro. Give me the 49ers.
Next game up, man, Steelers-Seahawks. I've said many times how I feel about the Steelers, and whichever, deservingly third-string quarterback they throw on the field, Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Trubisky, they're all in the same category. I've said it. Seahawks, 12th man at home. Give me them.
Yeah, give me the Seahawks, man. Once Jack started telling me, Mason Rudolph was the answer, I just kind of, nothing really else to say there, man. Give me the Seahawks.
It can't be real. You see this? You get one Saturday game where Mason Rudolph starts throwing a couple passes to George Pickens and literally 2 passes over 100 yards, and now Mason Rudolph's the GOAT. Yeah. They went through that delusion a couple of years ago. They'll come
I
back
will
down.
say he's definitely better than Mitch Trubisky, and I think it's not far off from Kenny Pickett at this point, but I don't think not any of those 3 guys are the answer.
Tier 4 quarterbacks right there.
Yeah.
That's
just, come on, you're just picking through.
Mason, in 2024. I mean, he had his little run, bro. It's just, he just on the bench just magically got better without those game reps. He's still the same Mason Rudolph. Next one up, Bengals travel Arrowhead to play the Chiefs, which, I mean, talk about looking human, and Patrick Mahomes looks the most human out of anybody in the NFL right now because they just don't look good. You double-team Kelsey, lock up everything else. I mean, it's tough. Pacheco couldn't get it going last week. He got banged up. think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is their best option right now on offense. And I think they should let it ride against the Bengals. That's the way they're going to win the game. CEH legacy game coming right up. Give me the Chiefs at home against the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in the season, man, it's just weird, dog. Bengals, tough loss against the Steelers last week. And then the Chiefs, I mean, Raiders just went in and just kind of manhandled them at home. Still Patrick Mahomes. I'm still believing. Give me the Chiefs. But, I mean, this game, I feel like it could definitely get up in the air.
Yeah, I could see the Bengals definitely winning this game.
I mean, before last week, Jake Browning was on a heater. He was, throwing the ball all over the place. So, Chiefs defense is still pretty good. The Raiders didn't score any offensive touchdowns. They didn't have any points on offense. It's just, offensively for the Chiefs, that's where you get question marks from. So, I think the Bengals I think they'll be able to score on the Chiefs, but Patrick Mahomes does just enough. Puts that cape on. He's going to have to wear it the entire rest of the season if they have any
playoff contention. Yeah. He's going to have to, what AB said, put that shit on. That's what he's going to have to do.
AB said a lot of things recently, especially right on Twitter, but we won't get into that.
Yeah, that's your favorite player. Anyways.
Toe tap Tony.
Chargers Broncos, man. AFC West matchup. I just throw my hands up at both these teams at this point. Easton Stick, love his name, don't love his game. Give me the Broncos at home. Sean Payton, he builds the win. Gets them to 500 before Week 18.
Yeah, not really much to say about this game. I'll take the Broncos at home, I guess.
NFC North matchup, Packers-Vikings. I think the Packers still got a chance at playoffs. Vikings, home team favorites. I'm just rocking with the Monday night underdogs going to win the game because I think it's now 8 in a row or whatever it is. Monday night underdog has won the game outright. And Packers, opening line plus 2.5. You mentioned Nick Mullins wanted to throw that game away with his turnovers.
I mean, he did.
He did. And Justin Jefferson almost saved him, but then he had to throw it away again. Which, by the way, on that last play, clean pocket, stepped up, no pressure, and he threw maybe the wobbliest football ever. I think my noodle arm could have done better. Yeah, like it was bad. It was bad. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a die, and then you just see the ball hanging. Safety's favorite thing to see, or DB in general, and it just got picked off, man. I heard people were like, oh, J-Jet should have done OPI on that. And I'm like, you think he sees someone coming behind on a wobble pass that could have been in his hands 3 seconds ago? Like, dog, just I told Big Max I was going to pick against the Packers because clearly I jinxed them. But I just can't do it again. Give me the Pack on the road against Skull Nation.
Yeah, I like the Packers here as well. I mean, offensively, I think, Jordan Love is definitely starting to come into his own. I don't think the problems for Green Bay has been offensively now. Nah. Offensive line, maybe you like to see play a little bit better, but Jordan Love and his Packers and his offense, they definitely, started to get things clicking. It's just this defense has been so bad. But I think Nick Mullins has been a little bit worse. So give me the Packers.
All right, man. That's going to wrap up our NFL Week 17 pick'ems. Only one more week after this. Playoff time, man. I'm not saying anything yet, but, I've never been in this situation where the two teams I support are here in this situation. Let's hope they don't never have to match up, but it's a good time for football, man. Playoffs, Week 18 or Week 17 coming up. We'll see how this picture shakes up. I think the NFC picture will be a lot more clear in Week 18 versus the AFC. I think it's going to come down to last week in the AFC. Really quick, I do want to talk a little bit of hoops. Christmas Day basketball, obviously overshadowed this year by the NFL. But usually a staple on Christmas is the NBA hoops. I want to shout out Triple J, little 30 ball on Christmas. Get the Heat, sitting at that 5 seed right now in the Eastern Conference, man. And I think the T-Wolves sitting at the 1 seed in the West. Yeah, 2 games ahead of the Nuggets. I really just wanted to talk about Ja Morant in the Grizzlies, who are now 3-0 this week since Ja's return. They were 6-19 coming in before Ja's return. They sit at the 13th seed. Do you think they could, whether it's via the play-in or whatnot, do you think they could punch a ticket to the playoffs? Do you think Ja's that much of a difference that they become, playoff contenders?
I mean, right now, since it's, just before halfway through the season, they got, a lot of games still to be played. I think it's definitely possible. I just think they just dug themselves in too big of a hole before Ja came. I think, they only had, about 6 or 7 wins before Ja. Six, yeah, before Ja came back. So it's tough, man, to start, in that big of a hole. And you saw Ja in his first game back, the talent he is. And, when he's fully healthy and fully engaged, he's, definitely one of the best players in the league. I just think it might be too little too late for this Memphis team, and they kind of dug themselves in too big of a hole.
Yeah, sitting at the 13, they are nearly 7 games behind the Suns, and it's 11 teams, I think, for the play-in, right? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, it might be 10. I don't know. Regardless, they sit 7 games behind the Suns. Or the Warriors at the 10 seed, who are 15-15. I hear the Suns aren't happy with KD. They're not looking too hot right now either. But yeah, I think that Grizzlies hole, man, that's real tough. You get a chance with Ja, he could turn it around. It's gonna be a long grinding season, but I mean, we'll see how things shake up in the West, man. Nonetheless, right now I'm on that Shea for MVP train right now. 3 seed in the West.
Shea for MVP.
It's Shea for MVP, man.
I think right now Embiid's kind of running away with it. But
Embiid's dominating, but I'm just saying, I'm pushing the agenda. I was pushing him for most improved last year. I'm pushing Shea for MVP this year.
Well, yeah, it might be a little tougher considering Embiid's at 35 and 11 right now.
Well,
Sixers just aren't losing. So
at some point,
they lost last night without Embiid. So.
20-9, they sit at the 3 seed. In the East. The East is dominating right now. But yeah, I mean, we'll see how things shake up, man. It's time to get into that hoop season. It's starting to feel good down there in Miami too. It's starting to get a little health back for the Heat. Nonetheless, man, any last comments, topics, anything you want to sign off with?
Nah, nothing much yet, man.
Week 17 NFL season coming right around the corner, recording on Tuesday, so 5 days away from NFL Sunday. Thursday night, Browns Jets. We'll see what happens this week. Week 17, Go to Go Pod on TikTok, Go to Go, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all that, man. Like, comment, share, sub, hit the share button. I think I already said that. Nonetheless, man, episode 71, Go to Go podcast. Appreciate everyone tuning in, man. Peace.